Today, I want to talk to you about phrasal verbs that are all related to food and cooking because, well, this is something that we do every day. All of us like to eat, and I think many of you out there probably like to cook as well. So these are very useful phrasal verbs that you will use in everyday English. Some of these phrasal verbs I will teach you in pairs, either because they are very similar in their meaning or they are exact opposites. So for example, the first phrasal verbs that I want to teach you, it is a pair, and that is heat up and warm up. And they both have a similar meaning, and it just means to make something warmer or hotter. I would think that to heat something up, I would think it's mostly about you're heating it up, you're making it hotter, and to warm it up, you are making it warmer. The only difference that I think is mostly the speed. If I think of heating something up, you're making it hotter, but doing it quickly. So for example, you might heat something up in the microwave. When you're talking about using the microwave, I think it's common to say that you're going to heat something up. To warm up, you are making it warmer, but I think there might be a longer period of time there that you are going to warm something up, and it might take several minutes. And you might use it when you're cooking something on the stove and you want to warm something up. You want to warm up the food so that you can eat it. Or if you want to do it much quicker, then you could just heat it up in the microwave. But in general, they have a similar meaning. You are just making food hotter or warmer.
So put it in one of those Tupperware containers, and I'll heat it up in the microwave when I get home.
I could warm up the soup if you want.
The next set of phrasal verbs that I want to teach you, turn up and turn down. Now, these two phrasal verbs are exact opposites, and we're talking about using the stove, and you would turn it up or you might turn it down. So to turn something up, it just means that you are increasing the amount of heat, and to turn something down, you are decreasing the amount of heat. And again, often you are referring to the stove and you want to increase the amount of heat, so you're going to turn it up. But if it gets too hot, then you may need to turn the stove down. Turn up, turn down. Next is the phrasal verb pass up. And this just means to not take advantage of something. Now, this phrasal verb can be used in a variety of contexts. For example, you might pass up on a new job opportunity. You just didn't take it. You didn't want it. But since we're talking about food and cooking, I think it might be used that you are not taking advantage of perhaps a meal. Maybe you are passing up on dinner with these people because you're too busy. Or I think somebody might use it in the context they're surprised that you decided not to eat something. You're not taking advantage of it. And be like, wow, I can't believe you're passing up on these cookies. They taste amazing. You should give them a try. I can't believe you're passing up on them. Next is the phrasal verb eat up. And this phrasal verb has two different meanings. So it can mean to eat all of something, that if something was so good, you just ate it all up. For example, I could say, well, I ate up all of those cookies. They were so delicious. You passed up on them. I told you not to, so I ate all of them up. It can also refer to like a command that you're telling somebody to start eating. And you might just say, hey, eat up. Don't wait for me. Just go ahead. Eat up. Start eating. Begin eating. Eat up.
Eat up!
Eat up!
Eat up, guys!
There on the table, I saw a pair of over-easy eggs that Honey had left for me. I ate them up. I passed out with a plate on my chest.
I ate of her snacks, and now the basket is empty.
So speaking of eating, the next phrasal verb is pig out. And what it means is to eat excessively. You're eating a large amount of something, and you're eating it rather quickly too. You just want to eat as much as you can, as fast as you can. You want to pig out. It's not a nice phrasal verb. You don't want to tell somebody, oh, wow, you're really pigging out. It's not going to make them feel good, but it is something that you might use when talking about yourself. If you are so hungry, perhaps you've been traveling all day and you have not eaten, and you say, oh, I can't wait to have dinner. I'm so hungry. I'm just going to pig out. I'm going to eat as much as I can, as fast as I can. I just want to pig out.
I say we buy $26 worth of ice cream and just pig out.
Extra large bucket of popcorn, half butter, half salt. Normally, just be out here, pigging out.
Then we have chop up. Now, this is a cooking phrasal verb because when you're in the kitchen and you need to cut things up into small pieces, you are going to chop them up. So if maybe somebody's helping you cook and you might ask them and you might tell them, hey, can you chop up those onions? Can you chop up some carrots? Can you cut them into small pieces? Chop up.
Now, let's start chopping up these onions.
Please tell me you're going to start chopping up lettuce and tomatoes.
You take the egg and the green pepper and chop the green pepper up in big chunks. Don't even dice it. Big chunks of green peppers and onions.
Next is thaw out. And when you thaw something out, you are taking something that is frozen and you are setting it out so that it becomes softer over time, and then it's ready to use. You need to thaw it out. So think of things in your freezer. Maybe you have some chicken in your freezer and you are ready to eat it and you want to cook it. You're not going to start cooking a frozen chicken. You need to thaw it out. So people might take it and move it from the freezer to the refrigerator to let it thaw out. Or perhaps they just set it out on the counter in the kitchen in room temperature and it thaws out over time, to thaw out. Next is boil over. Again, it's a cooking phrasal verb, and when you are heating up some water and it starts to boil, if it is boiling too much, it might boil over and the water just comes over the side and you'd say, wow, the water, it's boiling over. We need to turn down the heat so that it stops boiling so intensely and it doesn't boil over. So as you can see, when you are explaining something about cooking or eating, then it's quite possible you are going to use multiple phrasal verbs to describe what's happening. Next, I have another pair of phrasal verbs for you, and that is eat out and eat in. So I like to eat out. I'll admit that. It's one of my favorite phrasal verbs. This is when you eat outside of the home and you're really referring to a restaurant or some place in which you are ordering food and paying for it. You are eating out at a restaurant. Eat in, it just means the opposite. It means that you are going to eat at home, you are going to cook something, you are going to stay at home. Now this phrasal verb, I don't think it's as common because, well, most of the time people like to say that they're going to eat out. They like to tell others their plans and say, well, I'm going to this restaurant, I'm going to eat out tonight. But people don't regularly talk about eating in as much, mostly because, well, I think people sometimes think it's uneventful, but you could still use it in conversation. If somebody says, what are your plans for dinner tonight? You could just say, well, I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm going to eat in. I'm going to cook something at home. I'm going to eat in.
And then Liz rang about the two of you eating out tonight.
How come you wanted to eat in tonight?
So if you're going to eat in, then you might use this next phrasal verb, which is whip up. And this just means to make some food quickly. And I think it really refers to people who they have something they have to do. They need to eat quickly. They don't have a lot of time, so they need to whip something up, eat it, and then leave and go do whatever it is they need to do to whip up some food.
How about whipping up some buffalo sausage?
Okay. How about whip up some food, please?
Wait, I'll whip up some chicken wings?
Then we have cut down on. And you would cut down on something. And when you cut down on, it could be any food. It refers to a food that you need to reduce the amount that you're eating. Pretty much because it's not good for you. So you're telling somebody that you need to cut down on this food. For example, I would say that, I should probably cut down on chocolate because I eat it quite often, especially at night before I go to bed, just because it tastes good. Chocolate and milk, it's my one pleasure and I love to eat it, but I should probably cut down on it because every night it's too much. It's a little excessive. So I need to cut down on it. You can also use it when talking about nutrition as well. Like you want to cut down on the amount of calories that you are taking in during the day. You want to cut down on the amount of processed foods. Any type of food that you might think it's not really good for you. You want to reduce the amount of it. You want to cut down on this food. Is there anything you want to cut down on?
Trying like the dickens to cut down on my snacking.
Maybe we should cut down on your sweets. You're starting to get a little Buddha belly.
Then we have the phrasal verb pick at, and it refers to an action that somebody's doing. And it means that somebody is eating just a very, very small amount, usually because they're not hungry. And it's almost like they're kind of just playing with their food a little bit and say, oh, you're picking at your food. I think of families, maybe the parents would say this to the kids. If they're not eating and they're just sitting there, they might say, hey, stop picking at your food. I want you to eat it. We didn't whip up this food quickly. Stop picking at your food. I want you to eat up. And yes, I will confess, I need to stop picking at my vegetables. I need to go ahead and eat them. They're good for me. Then we have water down. This is a cooking phrasal verb that refers to adding water to something in order to make it less strong. You need to water it down. So when you're preparing a meal, maybe could be a soup, and you think that there is too much of something, it's a little too strong, you might want to water it down a little so that it's a little less intense and it has a better taste, to water something down. Or you could even use it to describe a meal, to describe something, the way it tastes, and say, well, you know, it's a little watered down. Probably you shouldn't say that to the person who prepared the food. You always want to be polite. But if you're talking to somebody else and you could say, yeah, you know, I tried this, I ate it, it was a little watered down, maybe it'll be better next time.
Well, go ahead. Water it down some more.
My God, man. I've watered it down as far as she'll go. I cannot water no more.
Then we have wash down. And this just means to drink something after you eat, mostly because you want to make it easier to swallow. You want to wash it down. So if somebody is just pigging out and they're eating really fast, then they may need to drink some water to wash everything down. I need to wash it down. It's also used in a situation where you eat something and it just tastes terrible. And you try it and you're like, oh, that's awful. I need something to wash it down. Please give me something to drink. I need to wash it down.
Let me slice this Swiss cheese, then you can wash it down with a cup of Swiss Miss Instant Cocoa.
Then we have another pair of phrasal verbs, and that is drink to or toast to. Now, for either of these phrasal verbs, you would drink to someone, or you could drink to something, as well as toast to. You could toast to someone or toast to something. And in that case, you are just wishing health and happiness and success to someone or something. So you might drink to your friend who is getting married and you're celebrating this event. Or you could toast to somebody's happiness because they just got a new job, or maybe they just had a new baby and you want to toast to this person. But when you use these phrasal verbs, keep in mind that you will need to have some kind of drink in your hand. Usually it would be a drink that's in a glass, and you would toast to someone and wish them happiness, or you would drink to something and acknowledge the success, and then everybody around would take a drink. For example, I want to toast to all of you for building your vocabulary and working really hard to learn these different phrasal verbs, and then go out and use them and just keep practicing and practicing and practicing. I want to toast to all of you. Yeah, it's just water.
Here, let's drink to their happiness, huh?
Come, let us drink to their memory.
Let us drink to peace.
I would like to make a toast to Pop.
I'd like to make a toast to the groom-to-be, Adrian Pimento.
Here, I'd like to make a toast to you guys, to my friends.
I would like to make a toast to my wife.
So the next time that you are cooking in the kitchen or you are out at a restaurant, try to think about what's going on. Think about which phrasal verbs you would use to describe certain situations, because when you connect it to your experience, that's going to help you remember their meaning. All this talk about food and cooking makes me a little hungry. So I'm going to head to the kitchen. I'm going to whip something up. Hopefully it'll taste good. If it doesn't, I'm not worried about it. I'll just wash it down with some water and then I'll go eat out. No problem. And I hope all of you have a wonderful meal the next time you eat, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And I will see you next time.